What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the SI Sooners podcast, episode 115 on this wonderful March the 23rd, Wednesday. Josh Callaway in Oklahoma City, John Hoover in Tulsa, Ryan Chapman in Norman. Gentlemen, how are we doing? It's been a really busy March. Spring ball is underway. We're bouncing around. We're in different cities constantly, but we're plowing on. It's been good stuff here so far in this very hectic month.
I'm glad you guys are in Norman and Oklahoma City to get to OU practices, as OU has opened up their practices this week at the exact same time my radio show is every day on the Sports Animal Tulsa, 9 to 11. So appreciate you guys being there, but try not to get culture shocked too much with having to talk to athletes face-to-face for the first time in your careers. It's incredible.
Yeah, it was an adjustment period as we bring up. I believe Deshaun White was the first person. Mike Houck, the SID media relations guy at Oklahoma, looked down. He's like, "You want to do podium or scrum?" Everyone says scrum, and I look down and go, "I only have one recorder. There's another table over there. What do we do? What do we do? Panic button, panic button." But we rallied.
Yeah, it was a wild scene because we knew going in. It had been told before that we were going to get players in person for the first time in 2 or 3 years, however long it's been. But I had assumed at least that they were going to be at the podium. It was going to be like kind of like what the coach had done, keep us, commoners as far away as possible. But no, they brought them out, and it was just straight up scrum mode. It was
single file.
I made the joke.
What we've been used to at these post game, these press conferences, single file, one at a time, and have them spread out like that, and everybody go talk to who you need. Is like, what? Whoa,
yeah,
not ready.
It was weird. It's so much more conversational that way, and I made the joke. It was like, we're doing scrums. We're talking about Schmitty and Venables. I was like, what year is it? It's how it felt like. It was like we just stepped into a time portal or something yesterday, but it was really cool. We're going to talk about all of that. We have a ton to get to, just football alone, not even counting the other sports. Obviously, we'll wrap up basketball with the Groves Bros coming up in the final segment, final time with them, as we kind of put a button on, a bow, I should say, on their season, as both men's and women's ended over the last weekend or so here. So we'll kind of wrap that all up in the second segment. We got to get into spring football first. Obviously, it's underway. Yesterday, Tuesday, was the first practice. We talked to Brent Venables on Monday to kind of kick off the spring. It was very Brent Venables, fashion. He had like a 20-something minute opening statement before we even got to any questions. That seems like it's going to be a theme going forward. I don't know how. There's no way his pressers can be 30 minutes. They're going to have to make them longer, or he's going to have to just like change his whole personality somehow.
Well,
I don't know.
Here's an idea. Get more sponsors, right? I mean,
True.
If you got more sponsors, you could break that thing into 3 or 4 segments and
take
have
a commercial break.
Hour brought to you by, whatever. That's one idea. Another idea is what Bob Stoops used to do. Bob used to go and talk to the cameras, the TV cameras, right? And he'd do 30 minutes up there, and everybody would get their sound bites that they needed and get all the video and stuff. And then he would come and sit in the back of the room with the writers, the newspaper folks, where the problem with that theory now is that we're all kind of doing the same thing. We're all kind of after the same material. We post as many or more videos as any TV station ever has. We've got video after video after video. So that would be kind of not fair to us, because we'd have to do both. We'd have to get the stuff in the back of the room with the newspaper type guys. And then we'd have to do the stuff in the front of the room with the TV type guys. I don't think there's much delineation anymore. And we're all sports media, and we all need the same stuff.
Sure. So it's going to, I don't know how that's going to be handled. We'll worry about that in the fall, but right now it's looking like 30 minutes. No way that's enough time. So we'll see how that goes down the road. But we got to talk to Brent. It was like close to an hour in total. Then yesterday we talked to Ted Roof and 5 defensive players. And Ryan and I got to go to practice. So we got a lot of stuff. Who could too, but he was busy with his show, like he said. So we'll try and dive into all of it. But first, just to kick it off, spring ball is underway. And they talked about, Brent and Ted Roof, the players, how important this time is. Obviously, especially when you're installing new offenses and defenses. But we're off and running here. Spring ball is here. The spring game is exactly 1 month from today that we're recording this. Here we go. It is the start. First practice under their belt. Second practice is off and running today. And we get to see these guys for the first time.
Yeah. Ted Roof yesterday. How important is this particular spring practice? Very, 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 very important. I think he said it 5 or 6 times. extremely important to get the install in, to get the terminology down. Cale Gundy made the reference to learning Jeff Lebby's system is learning Portuguese, right? He might have a better chance of learning Portuguese. Both coaches, both coordinators are fire hosing right now everything they know about their system, what they want to do. Obviously, this is Brent's defense, not necessarily Ted Roof's defense, but they're teaching the assistant coaches. The assistant coach's job has just ramped up. Practice started yesterday, and they're now installing. They're now teaching the players, and I think a lot of what you're going to see in the fall in terms of practice is you install certain parts of your playbook or your scheme or your game plan or your system to suit that week's opponent. And then you take it out the next week because you're playing a different opponent, and you adjust, you try to do these things better based on how you did the last game. You move forward and you do things a little differently. Spring ball's not like that. Spring ball is, here is everything. We're going to spray the whole crowd with this giant fire hose, and you guys get as much as you can, pick up everything you can. It's got to be an interesting time when you've got a new offensive coordinator and a new defensive coordinator.
Yeah, for sure. And another one of the things, like Brent Venables on Monday talked about, like, okay, so in the winter, you've got winter workouts and you've got 8 hours of basically classroom time a week with your team, and how he wanted Jerry Schmidt to focus on just installing the culture, not any nuts and bolts, anything like that. He wanted them to focus on culture in the winter workouts, along with actually working out. That way, when they move to the spring and you now get your 20 hours instead of 8 hours, everything will be that much more efficient because you already have that culture of accountability. Hey, if I messed up, it's okay to say I messed up. How do we fix it? Everyone's paying attention. Brent Venables talked about focus and making sure that everyone is 100% honing their focus in on what they need to be focused on, because yeah, like this is where the nitty gritty, where all of the install is going to take place. So it's a big ramp up. Brent Venables basically just said, like, yeah, in the winter, we can give them all the videos that we want of watch this, watch this, watch this, but there's other stuff going on, and there's nothing like being on the field, going through it, and having those actual coaching points of, I'm standing right here. Joe John Finley walks up to me. They were practicing punt coverage, basically, in the minutes that Callaway and I were standing there, and Joe John Finley walks up and says, no, you need to be a yard this way, a yard that way. Those little things, you just can't do that in the winter over video. So that's a ton of what Oklahoma's honing in on here in the next month.
Absolutely. It's a really important time. Brent Venables talked about on Monday, it's one of the shorter springs he's ever had in terms of, from the start of the first practice to when the spring game is. It was like 34 days, I think he said it was, from the start of the first practice to when the game is. So got to make use of your time, and it's certainly an important month or so here ahead. Another thing that stuck out to me as far as Brent Venables goes, and I just want to get both of you guys' thoughts, was he talked about the blank canvas. That was a big thing. That was like, kind of one of the overarching themes of his press conference. No depth chart, all that good stuff. It seems like this is kind of a reset for kind of everybody. And Jalen Redmond talked about this a little bit yesterday. It's a chance to kind of start fresh for a lot of these guys. Not that everybody needed like a new start or something, but for everybody, it's new coaches. Everything you did before kind of it feels like it doesn't matter in a way. So it's an important spring for everybody to kind of just work their way into playing time here coming up.
So we did the practice. We did the series leading up to spring practice, the start of spring practice yesterday, called the Starting 11. We voted and picked our 11 best players on the team, maybe most dynamic, most significant, most important, whatever. And I look back at that list, and as we were putting them out there, I'm like, I hope this guy gets a starting job. We're naming him in the starting 11, right? The best 11 players on the field. I hope this guy gets a starting job. Here we are at number 4, number 5, whatever it was. And I'm like having doubts about who's got a starting role. And Brent, when he came out, his first thing he said was what? We don't have a depth chart. We're not going to go into this spring with a depth chart. Everybody's the same. Now that'll shake out, I think, pretty quick once he gets guys on the field, sees what Marvin Mims can do, sees what Jalen Redmond can do. But yeah, it's a reset button for everybody on the team, because there's a new coaching staff and there's a new culture and there's a new way of doing things, evidenced by the fact that Brent Venables gets up there and, like you said, 20-minute opening statement. Reveals things about the program that have been secret for 25 years almost, since Bob Stoops got there. He talked about the very first meeting between the coaching staff back in 1998/99, spring meeting they're at the Residence Inn, Mark Mangino's room, right? And
Yeah.
Brent is telling us like the world stories that he told us as beat writers 15 years ago, 10 years ago, that were off the record back then. But it's like some Bob Stoops statute of limitations has passed. And so Brent is now opening the curtain and saying, here's what happened back in the day. He talked about his Rhett Bomar thing, where he was like, hey, coach, do we have to kick him off the team? Can we suspend him for just a couple of games, like the Monroe game, maybe the early Baylor game or something like that? And that was an illustration for how he's grown as a coach, grown into the role as a head coach. But he's pulling back the curtain. Now, if he's doing that with us guys, if he's doing that with the media and the public, what do you think he's doing behind closed doors? What do you think he's doing with his team? So those guys are in right now for an absolute culture shock when anytime Venables walks in the room.
Yeah, the blank canvas thing was kind of interesting because, like, it's true, but it's not, right? Like, Dylan Gabriel's the starting quarterback. Key Lawrence came out and said he's working at safety, which means that DJ Graham and Woody Washington are working at corner. You know what I mean? Like, so it's a blank canvas in the positions where you don't have established guys. And it's a blank canvas is like Marvin Mims is going to be a starting wide receiver. His role just might change. So I think that's interesting. One of the offshoots that I didn't really think about, though, that Jeffrey Johnson talked about yesterday means this team obviously had a lot of portal carnage, right? That's just what happens in college athletics now when you have a coaching change. It wasn't as much as we thought it was going to be. A lot of that is credit to Bob Stoops and Brent Venables. But Jeffrey Johnson said that, hey, he was coming in and it's actually been an easier process to acclimate than he thought because everyone's starting from basically square one. So while he may not have those built-in relationships with his teammates, with Todd Bates, he's got the same relationship with Todd Bates that Jalen Redmond has, that is Isaiah Coe, like all those guys. So that's something that you might see these portal additions get back up to speed with this team on day one quicker than other years, just because they're coming in and learning a new thing as well. So that's kind of stuff that I'm looking at when I think of the blank canvas. Cause I mean, it's a blank canvas, but it's not, right? Like we know there's a few guys that it's very clear those guys are going to play and they're going to play a big role for this team.
Absolutely. What did you guys think about, this was kind of the other thing that when I think of Monday that sticks out was when Brent talked about his recruiting philosophy when it came to visits and stuff like that. That was one of the other things that really got headlines. If you didn't see it, Brent basically said that he encourages guys to take as many visits as they want, go everywhere, see all the different parts of the country, all that stuff, but don't commit to Oklahoma until you're ready to not do that anymore. Basically, once you commit, no more visits. Like, you've committed. Like that. Yeah. To him, that's not committing. If you're still looking, then it's not real. So don't commit until you're done. Very different. You don't really hear that a whole lot. I was curious your guys, thoughts on that. It's different, but it makes sense, quite honest, to me at least.
Let me answer that this way. Ryan, are you married?
Yeah.
Johnny Gigolo over here. Reporting in.
Yeah, no, you're not married. You don't get to participate in this discussion. Josh, you're married, right? You got a ring on your finger, right? Yeah. When you proposed to your wife, right? What was that was an incredible conversation. And that was his point was, we're talking commitment here. You said you were going to commit to me and this program, but you didn't do it. You went and you visited somebody else. You went and you visited. So he doesn't want guys to come and visit or to commit to Oklahoma if they're still thinking about other schools. Just don't do it. He said, he held his hands up in the stop position and said, do not commit. That was kind of mind blowing to me, guys. I looked it up. His last season at Clemson made a total of 88 scholarship offers. That same season, Oklahoma and under Lincoln Riley made 189 scholarship offers. That's two different ways to go about your business, but I think there's a clear delineation for how Brent wants to operate in one direction versus what Lincoln Riley was doing with kind of a shotgun approach to a lot of those offers.
Yeah, I'm curious what would have happened if I had asked that question instead of Bob Prisbillo, because what would that back and forth have been? No, Brent, I'm single. I don't know what you're talking about.
I am playing the field.
Yeah. But here's the cause and effect, right? Oklahoma, will it hurt their recruiting? I don't think so. All it means is what you saw from Lincoln Riley in the 2023 class, where the Sooners got off to this huge hot start and had all that momentum early. That's not going to happen under Brent Venables. You're going to have select guys that early on, no, your Ashton Cozarts, your Eric McCarty's. Those guys get your scholarship offer. They know they want to go to OU. Boom. For everyone else, they're just going to go through the process. And Brent Venables said, I want you to go through the process. Come visit us last, and I'm confident that our brand's going to hold up. And after you see everybody, then you can commit. Like, it's not a don't go or anything like that. That's Brent Venables was very clear. He's not anti-visits, anything like that. He's like, cool, visit Norman last, and we'll still win that recruiting battle. Like, that was kind of the attitude that he had. It's like, we just want you to be 100% when you sign on. So I don't think it's anything to panic about. It's a huge shift, like John said, in philosophy, but it's been very successful at Clemson. They're not the only ones that do that. Mike Gundy has a similar philosophy of like, hey, when you commit, like, don't commit in October, commit in December when you know you want to come to Stoll. It's the same thing. It's just going to be on a much larger scale in Norman.
And hey, I would imagine Oklahoma fans are all for this approach, because we've joked about it. How many guys have commit to Oklahoma in the last few years and then didn't actually end up signing? It's happened a lot to Lincoln Riley when he was in Oklahoma. So I think OU fans are probably on board with that change. Feeling good. We got to the point where on this show we were saying, guys committed, kind of like cool, but it doesn't mean anything. Like until they sign, it happens so often that you almost it's like you don't want to even count guys who are committed as part of the class until they sign, which is kind of crazy because in theory they commit, that means they're coming. So we'll see how that changes.
Think about this.
Brent.
OU got in a 4-year stretch. OU got a commitment from 3 5-star quarterbacks. How many are actually at OU right now and going to be at OU? 0.
Goose egg.
So
absolutely. As far as yesterday goes, like we said, we got to see practice. It was like 45 minutes. It was a long time. Very Brent fashion. Everything's long. It was normally under Lincoln, it was like 10 minutes, and it was just kind of guys stretching pretty much. We didn't get to see a ton. I'm not going to think we got to see like plays or something, but we got to see a lot more. So there's a lot to take away from. We're going to do it again, I believe, is the plan on Thursday morning as well. And then we got to talk to Ted Roof. We got to talk to 5 players. Now, there's a lot to sift through here, so I'll kind of just open it up. Anything that you take away from yesterday, who of you can start, you weren't there, or Ryan can, either way. I have a couple things, obviously, that stuck out to me from practice and hearing the players, but anything that jumped out to you?
Yeah, real quick, one thing, Jeffrey Johnson, when he said, I was at Tulane for 4 years and I was happy and I thought everybody got coached the same. And then he made the decision to come to Oklahoma. Right. He was blown away by his visit here when he was a member of the Tulane football team. Think about it. If the hurricane hadn't come through, he might not have been impacted, right, by the team, Tulane having to shift that game to Norman. He might not have been impacted and said, I want to go play at Oklahoma. But he gets here and he starts to get coached by Todd Bates, and he realized all coaching is not the same. So he was trying his best to not throw the Tulane coaching staff or his position coach under the bus, but at the same time, he was really fairly effusive with his praise on how good of a coach Todd Bates is. So that's something, guys, that's going to move forward for this program. It's the number one thing that's kept them from winning a national championship, in my opinion, and that is having really good first-round defensive tackles. And not that they have them right now, but Todd Bates is going to recruit them, and he's going to go develop them. So I think Jeffrey Johnson is a good example of that.
That's a good, serious answer. The most important thing we have to start off with is you walk in, it's the first practice of spring practice, and I think Josh commented on this. If you gave us 3 guesses of what song is leading off the spring practice, first practice back playlist.
Who might be able to get it?
Yeah. Who? If you've got...
The boys are back in town.
Yeah, exactly. That is, of course, what is leading off spring practice. No, So on top of just the first time I got to see Dylan Gabriel and trying to look at some of these new guys, whether it be the freshmen or transfers, the thing I was really curious about was Brent put such an emphasis in his Monday presser on the players watch every move that the coaches make. So the coaches need to be reflecting that, whether it's the coaching stations, whether it's the warm-up line, whether it's install, they need to be prepared and know where they need to be, things like that. And so you just walk in and they're going through stretches, and what do we see but Brent Venables is laying down in the middle of the stretch line, doing every single stretch that the team is doing. And then Jerry Schmidt walks over to Brent Venables, and it's one of the stretches where you're laying on your back and you've got your leg going this way and your leg going this way. And Schmidt was not happy with the intensity or the depth of one of Brent's stretches. So Schmidt then is on Brent Venables, pushing his leg down, going, no, you need to be deeper in this stretch. And like, they're laughing about it. But that's just one of those things, right? That the players watch the coaches, and their head coach is going through the stretches. Their strength coach is getting on to the head coach about not properly going through the stretch. So I thought about that, because then when they got to the coaching stations, I was on the defensive side of the field. They've got basically it's a scoop and score fumble recovery one. They've got a tip drill going on the far side. Right in front of me was your typical DB drill, where Brandon Hall's throwing what should just be pretty clear interceptions. You're supposed to catch it, tuck it immediately. The defensive tackles get over there, and if I was a defensive tackle, I would have done exactly what they did, which they are loafing through that drill, because when's the last time a defensive tackle is in the open field just picking off, not a tip drill, like in the open field? Brent Venables comes tearing over and starts ripping into them about their effort, and you can see him, like, it's very visible. You catch here at the catch point, aggressive hands, you tuck, you sprint, and I just couldn't help but think, when you're getting lit up there, if you think back to, oh my gosh, Schmidt was lighting into Brent in the stretches because he's not doing it right. Like that's that attention to detail. So it's just stuff like that Brent Venables talked about on Monday. That's the accountability. That's that culture of setting that tone. And the players talked about little things a ton. That to me is what really stuck out immediately, because again, like a lot of it was going through stretches and warm-ups and some little drills, but we didn't see any play install or anything like that.
Here's another example of what you're talking about, I think, and that is what Brett said about going over to the indoor or going to the practice fields as a staff, the entire coaching staff going over there by themselves and saying, okay, first segment, first section, here's what we're doing. You're breaking up and you're taking your guys over there. Linebackers, you're going to be warming up over there. DBs, you're back here this way in this corner. He's got everybody going to their stations where they're without any players. So when the players show up, the coaches are standing there going, you guys are over here, linebackers with me, defensive backs with me. The preparation, the level of preparation, attention to detail is something. And honestly, we haven't been to enough practices to know if that's what every coaching staff does. But I got to believe, guys, that that's not what every coaching staff does.
Absolutely. I mean, to me, definitely the intensity jumped out. Guys getting on, like kind of what Ryan was saying. I noticed Miguel Chavis was laying into some guys. Like they were bringing it. It was like, we're 30 minutes into the first day, and there was guys getting worn out a little bit already, I think. And then the Schmidt's been working. A couple of guys noticeably bigger to me. Marcus Major, especially, his legs were huge. Like it was, who is that guy? Like it caught me. It was noticeable, and there was a few guys. I thought Keaton Lawrence looked to be in like spectacular shape as well. Just a few guys really caught my eye there. And then really the number one thing, Dylan Gabriel had a weird face mask and helmet, and everybody freaked out about it. I don't know if you guys saw that.
I thought that was weird.
Twitter had a meltdown about Dylan Gabriel's helmet face mask. It's actually crazy. If OU Football tweeted a picture of him, every reply, what's up with the helmet? What's up with the face mask? We can't win with that. All this stuff. It was like, it was insane. It was insane. Now today, if it makes OU fans feel any better, I saw a picture of CJ Stroud had the same. He was doing the same thing. He had the same like weird helmet face mask thing. It's some kind of fancy helmet where the face mask is like, or the visor is like built in and the face mask doesn't like connect. It is a little futuristic.
There's another angle to the Dylan Gabriel stuff, which is obvious. He's left-handed. I've talked about this on the show. Does that mean Anton Harrison, who's been protecting the blind side of right-handed quarterbacks, now slides over to the right side to protect the blind side of the left-handed quarterback? Or do they have to develop an entirely new, is this Wanye Morris's time to shine? Is it going to be one of those guys that's been a career backup? So there's that. But Josh, you did a great job with the video. If you guys want to watch the highlights of the video, it's about 4.5, maybe 5.5 minutes. There's a lot of images of Dylan Gabriel throwing the football, and I'm doing it with my right hand because I'm right-handed. That dude's got a quick release, a snap release. I mean, there's a little bit of motion going back, but then when he brings it forward, it's instantaneous. And I say this because I've been watching high school quarterbacks all week where they've got this big looping throwing motion. It takes forever to get the ball out. Dylan Gabriel's got his motion polished up. So they might not like his face mask and his helmet, but I think they're going to like his release.
Yeah. Well, to add on to that too, so we didn't see any Gabriel air out any deep bombs or anything like that. We were probably 15, 20 yards, probably the longest pass we saw him throw. And that was another thing that stuck out to me is he doesn't have Mayfield and he doesn't have Kyler Murray arm strength, but he has plenty of pop. It's not like some of the other guys that you've come in and like when we go around just the Big 12 and I'm just like, this guy wins football game. Like how does like Baylor do this with Gary Bohannon, like just floating pea shooters all across the field? It's clearly plenty of zip. Going to be enough if he makes the right decisions. Everything comes together. Like there's no question that's a Big 12 championship winning quarterback quality when you just look at the arm strength, things like that.
Definitely. So there was a lot from that. We have a lot on allsooners.com already, more to come, and we're getting I believe it hasn't got any official word, but we're supposed to be getting open practice again tomorrow, and then the expectation is Jeff Lebby and offensive players will talk to us. So lots going on. Spring ball is underway. It's going to be regular flowing of things. It's so great after like two plus months of kind of just constantly speculating to actually get to see and hear from some guys. It's very, very nice. So definitely allsooners.com, the place to be. All right, we have a lot more football stuff to get through, so we're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We got recruiting update. Who've talked to some guys. I talked to some guys. We're talking to more guys this weekend. OU made another staff addition. And then our guy, Baker Mayfield, I don't know what's happening with him. We'll talk about all that next on the SI Sooners podcast.
What's up, guys? It's Kerry with Trade Pros here. We've got a brand new service program coming out this year. It's the new All-Star Service Program. It's only $25 a month. The great thing about it is it's going to save you guys a ton of money throughout the year. Furnace and air conditioning repairs can be very expensive. If you guys need a service call and you're signed up with us, you're not going to have to pay that service charge. The repair is under $500. Trade Pros is going to take care of that as well. Anything over that, you guys are just going to be responsible for 25% of that. Go give us a like on Facebook. Check us out at tradeprosokc.com or give us a call at 405-639-9991.
On Twitter, you can follow SI Sooners at all_Sooners. Who's at Johnny Hoover? Ryan's at Radio's Ryan. I'm at Josh M. Callaway. Our website is allsooners.com. We are a Fan Nation affiliate, part of the Sports Illustrated Network. All right, so we said we got more football to get through. We'll wrap up the basketball seasons here coming up at the back end of this segment. Again, we have the Groves Bros coming up in segment 3. But first, we have some more football stuff to clean up. Let's talk a little bit of recruiting here. Hoove was in Tulsa over the weekend at the 77 event up there. I was in Dallas, talked to some guys down there. And the plan is for Ryan and I to go back down for more this weekend. Busy time all the way around in the month of March. But Hoove, I know you have stuff with Micah T's coming, but anything you can take away without giving away your whole story, feel free.
Yeah, so I talked to Micah T's. What an unbelievable talent. He's a little bit undersized defensive back. He's a little bit undersized for a receiver as well. Am I right? The problem is I'm not going to call it a problem. That's probably speaking out of turn. He wants to play receiver. He told me he wants to play receiver. He told me that the OU coaches are recruiting him as a defensive back. But he also told me that is not going to be a deal breaker wherever he goes. You guys will be interested to know that he was wearing some gloves at this 7v7 tournament that he was playing in. He was wearing some gloves. You know how they have the little logos on them and stuff. You'll be interested to see that when this podcast posts. You'll have about 24 hours to get to allsooners.com. That story's running tomorrow. I'll tell you all about his gloves. I got some photos of him in his new gloves. You'll be interested to see it. Anyway, guys, I've been doing this a long time. I've been talking to a lot of high school players over the years, and I can honestly say with great confidence, he might be the most media-friendly high school player I've ever spoken with. And as you know, I was embedded with Oklahoma's Player of the Year, two-time Gatorade Player of the Year out of Locust Grove, the quarterback. This kid, in terms of friendly, he's like asking me, "Where are you from? How are you doing today? What's on your mind?" He's asking me stuff. I'm just like, whoa, this kid he gets it. He totally gets the relationship standard of what he's doing and what we're doing, obviously. But now project that into what a new head coach. He gets to know Brent Venables, for instance, right? I mean, Brent Venables is all about relationships. When these two guys get together, I would think that's going to be a good pairing. If he does choose Oklahoma, obviously, we'll let him tell you where he's going when the time comes. But he's so close too as friends with Gentry Williams. Gentry Williams, obviously a Sooner. I think the projection is, and then I don't think I'm speaking out of turn here. I think the projection is that he's going to come to Oklahoma. He's being recruited by everybody, but just in terms of getting to know the young man, I was blown away. I was very impressed, very, very impressed by his demeanor, his delivery, his friendliness, his outgoingness. Teammates gravitate to him. He was over there kind of holding court. I was taking pictures from a distance. Guys are just gathering around him, wanting to hear what he has to say. He's engaging them, so he looks like a real priority recruit. And that's one of those guys. Again, you don't want to let a kid like that out of your state.
Yeah, that was me. Similarly, and who obviously you've talked to him before, but I got to catch up with Ashton Cozart over the weekend. Also great. He was a lot of fun to talk to. I just had a story go up on allsooners.com today. Obviously, I'm biased because I wrote it, but I recommend everybody go check it out. He gave some great stuff about the transition from Lincoln to Venables, and he talked about, hey, if you're committed to OU, you should not be committed to coaches. It's a special place. The culture, like the coaching change, didn't bother him basically because he loved OU. He cared more about OU than the coaches. So that's stuff that fans are going to eat up and love. And so I recommend you go check that out on All Sooners. And I also got to catch up to By Job, who, if you're not familiar with him, is a high school kind of just, freak athlete type guy. I mean, he's 6'4". He's pretty lean. I think he's just listed at 215 on 247 Sports, but he is a lot of fun. He's a really good basketball player in high school, Community Christian High School, which is like, it's in Norman. It's right by OU. OU certainly one of the favorites for him, but he was honest with me in that Georgia and Alabama are right up there as well. So it's going to be an interesting chase. I mean, obviously, a guy's good when that's his three: Georgia, Alabama, and Oklahoma. You said Baylor's in the running too, but he made it sound like Georgia, Bama, and Oklahoma are the big favorites. So we'll see how that goes. Similarly to Mike Aziz with the gloves, he was wearing OU cleats on Saturday, so that should make OU fans feel a little better about it. Maybe he has the hometown thing going for him. His family. He said, his family would love him to go to OU because it's right there. But at the end of the day, he wants to go to the best fit. So we'll see how that shakes out. That's certainly a big fish that OU is chasing in the 23 class. If you didn't read that story, go check it out. It's still on there, obviously, from All Sooners. And this weekend, Ryan and I planning to head down to Dallas, catch up with more guys. One guy we're hoping to catch up with. We don't know how it's going to work out, but Jackson Arnold, obviously QB commit at Elite 11, hopefully. That's kind of the expectation for this weekend. Big stuff coming up from Ryan and myself on Saturday and Sunday back down in Texas.
Yeah, and excited to, like we said, fingers crossed, hopefully get to see him throw live,
Right.
compared to all the other great quarterbacks in this region as well. Makes it really informational when you're trying to just say, okay, I see him, looks like a good release. Then you go, oh no, that is truly faster than X, Y, and Z, or the pop. It looks different. Makes that evaluation process a lot easier for us. So hopefully we can pass that along. Fingers crossed, everything works out.
Guys, this weekend, real quick, we're going to be doing recruiting stuff, obviously, but OU's got 4 dozen recruits, big time recruits in town on the 26th. It's another junior day, and they say it's one of the biggest junior days that they've ever had at Oklahoma. I don't know if they're going to get many 23s out of this group, probably a small handful. And I'm actually told there will be a commitment coming within the next 7 to 10 days. So keep an eye out for that. But I know that's a little wishy-washy, but you have to be vague with these things. Let the kids spin their own message.
Yeah.
But the big thing for this junior day is some of the 2024s that are coming. So Venables and his staff are going to, try to have spring practice. And also there's guys in town right now. We're recording this on a Wednesday. There are guys in town right now who are visiting the campus. More coming on Thursday. They're coming in on Friday. They can't wait to meet the new coaches and see what OU's about that have never done this before. So huge weekend for Oklahoma.
Absolutely. So lots of recruiting coverage coming on allsooners.com this weekend. Definitely want to keep up with all three of us. We're all going to be busy times continuing to bust out the content on allsooners.com. One more football cleanup thing in terms of news. Matt Wells, how do you like this? Kind of out of nowhere. Obviously, Texas Tech coach last year was let go right before the OU game when Sonny Cumbie came in and was the intern for the game when they came to Norman. He's coming to OU as an analyst. This is like a very Alabama-y move. You're taking like a head coach and making him an analyst. They've seen Saban do that a ton. Matt Wells comes aboard. This is kind of surprising, especially with the time of it, right when spring ball was starting. But interesting addition here. Obviously, a guy who's got good head coaching experience, has been moderately successful. I mean, Texas Tech kind of harshly fired him, considering that he hadn't been that bad by any stretch in Lubbock. But there you go. I mean, what an interesting little thing that nobody was really ready for early this week.
It's interesting that I'm old enough now to have covered Matt Wells when he was a player. That's how old I am. I would say, to be fair, I was a young reporter at the time. The team I was covering, the town I lived in, went to Sallisaw for a playoff game, and Sallisaw, his hometown, ended up winning that game. And I'm just like, okay. He remembered that when we met up again at Big 12 Media Days. I said hi to Matt Wells, and he goes, "Sure, I remember John Hoover. He was at the University of Tulsa for a short time." And what that tells you is what? He values relationships. He values interpersonal interactions. Is that not the perfect guy to join Brent Venables' first staff at OU? Someone an Oklahoma guy who relationships mean everything to him. So I think it's going to be a good hire. I think Matt is seen as a very, very good football mind. Things didn't work out for him as a head coach at Texas Tech. I think it's just a matter of time before he gets another shot.
It'll be interesting what his next step is. He was not happy with the business side of college football as a head coach at Texas Tech. His next move is going to be kind of interesting. Some of the spots that he had reached out to before taking this job might surprise you. So I'm curious to see if this is a 1 or 2 year thing, or if he kind of stays aboard where the business side of things is not a big deal at Oklahoma. Oklahoma prints money. They pump that money back into the football program. So from that side of things, it'll be interesting to see how long his stay is in Norman.
Absolutely, going to be very interesting to see how that shakes out and what that looks like, in the season ahead. One last bit of football news before we wrap up basketball and give a quick, Diamond Sports update. OU fans, Baker Mayfield, we don't know. I don't know where this guy's going. He continues to float around. So I think since last show, it's so much. It's seemingly changed every day. But I think this last show is when the Browns traded for Deshaun Watson. So Baker's obviously gone. He requested a trade. The Browns said they're not going to honor it, and then they went and got Deshaun Watson. So now they're like, okay, we are going to trade him. And now the market is drying up really quickly because they did the character assassination thing. I don't know why, because now they can't get enough of a return for Mayfield to trade him off. And again, the market is drying up in terms of the teams that are looking for quarterbacks is starting to get really, really thin. It's looking more and more with each passing day like Baker Mayfield may not be a starting quarterback next year, which is kind of crazy. But that's just the way it's shaping up as teams continue to add guys. And it was reported the Panthers are out of the running. So that leaves the Seahawks and maybe the Steelers. I mean, there's not really a lot of options left here for Baker. What a wild year and a half from when they were so close to the AFC Championship game to this point. It's really fallen apart quickly for Baker as he looks for a new home.
Yeah, it's easy to forget. I was driving home the other night from Norman, and I heard somebody say, "Yeah, Baker Mayfield had a pretty bad year last year," and I'm like, and Baker had 2 shoulder injuries, like an ankle, a hamstring, or something else. Okay, so yeah, he had a bad year. How simple-minded are you that you encapsulate all of Baker Mayfield in the Browns season into one bad year? He had a rookie season, which those are always usually sketchy, right? He had a sophomore slump, which he owned up to and said, "I sucked that year." He led the team to the playoffs and into a playoff win for the first time in 26 years. And then this year, he had multiple injuries. Baker Mayfield has had 4 completely different seasons. I don't understand the hate, man. I just don't listen. Could he play better? He could play a hell of a lot better. But I just don't understand the hate when there are circumstances around every season. Every year's different. It looks like to me either Seattle, like you said, Josh, or Pittsburgh. I saw where Mary Kay Cabot from Cleveland.com said yesterday on a podcast that Pittsburgh, her sources tell her that Pittsburgh would jump all over Baker Mayfield if he was sent their way. So he's got some options, and I think he would be successful at either place. I think both the Seahawks and the Steelers have a culture established in place that a quarterback can go in and be an instant winner.
Yeah, here's the problem. It's not a Baker Mayfield problem. It's a timing problem. When you look at the league, because the Browns sat around, a lot of the QB moves for QB needy teams were made. Last year was considered a good QB draft, and next year is considered a good QB draft. So the calculus a lot of teams are undergoing is they either took a quarterback last year, aka a team like the Jets, can't give up on him. If Baker doesn't pan out this year and you gave up on him, you're going to get fired as a GM. Or a team like Houston or the Falcons or something like that. They've either got a stopgap in Mills or Mariota that they're like, if it works, awesome. If not, we're going to draft a quarterback next year. And then you get to play the NFL cheat code, which is have a rookie scale. So a lot of this is unshockingly just down to Cleveland's inability to manage anything because Brown's going to Brown. So
Yeah.
That's the unfortunate thing. Because like when you remember 2 seasons ago, Baker Mayfield was top 10 in the NFL in QBR. And like his rookie season was an up and down rookie season that also brought Cleveland its first wins, like sustainable wins, not just one win in like 3 seasons and a franchise that had been down in the dumps for 2 decades. So it's unfortunate timing for Baker, especially when this last season's a lot of unfortunate stuff like injuries. So it is what it is. It's unfortunate. If it's not the Steelers or the Seahawks, it may be a backup situation for a year or two until some more quarterbacks can cycle through. I think Baker Mayfield, more than anything, is just a victim of awful timing right now.
Yeah, and he's a little bit in no man's land in terms of his abilities, because there's no way he's not a starting quarterback in terms of the skill. He's better than 10 or 15 guys easily, but at that same time, he's not so good that a team like the Colts, who feels like they're ready to win a Super Bowl, they're going to make the move for him whenever there's a Matt Ryan sitting there. He's not clearly going to elevate you to a Super Bowl contender, but he's also too good for a bad team to pick him up and then just play them out of the top 10. You know, like you're saying, Ryan, with the Falcons, who I'm a fan of, obviously, they picked up Mariota to kind of to be bad, basically, and then to look to get C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young the next year. If they got Baker, they're probably winning too many games. They're not going to get him. So he's kind of in no man's land in that regard. But as far as the two teams, I got to be honest, I like the Steelers as an option for him. I think him and Mike Tomlin would be, they seem to kind of mesh personality-wise, and then it feels a little Texas Tech to OUE a little bit. The in-division thing, I feel like that's just kind of the thing that's right up Baker's alley. So we'll see what happens. It's he may have to take the graduate year, a la Trubisky or Jameis Winston, one of these guys who kind of just back somebody up for a year, and then they get another shot after. We'll see. We'll keep up with that on All Sooners.
He's already had the redshirt year at OU, right? That he had to petition the Big 12 to get back. Maybe he can sit out for a year. And apparently, Mary Kay had reported that he was willing to sit out for a year. He didn't want to play for the Browns in 22, and so maybe forcing their hand into a trade, get some trade value out of him. He's in the final year of his contract. They picked up the option, the 5th-year option of his contract. Now they got to ship him somewhere. Pittsburgh would be his first choice.
Yeah, and what'll be funny is when Deshaun Watson gets suspended for like the full season, and then the Browns are just Browns is the Browns
for $220 million or whatever it is.
Yeah, unbelievable. All right, we'll wrap up some other sports here before we get on to the Gross Bros. Basketball season is over. Both men's and women's had their season end pretty abruptly over the weekend. Men lost to St. Bonaventure on Sunday, which the Bonnies then turned around and beat Virginia last night. So, I mean, that makes OU fans maybe feel a little better. St. Bonaventure's good. I know we were all at that game, and my main takeaway was that's a really good fundamental basketball team. If OU wants to win, they got to play well, and just didn't play super well down the stretch. Moser Gibson was like the only guy scoring, it felt like. So they lose to St. Bonaventure. Season ends in the second round of the NIT, and the women turn around and just get destroyed by Notre Dame on Monday. I mean, my only comparisons in my brain were Villanova in the Final Four for the men basketball in 2016, and then like the LSU playoff game. That's what it reminded me of just over before it started type of situation. So both basketball seasons are over. We head to the off season. I personally completely feel like both programs are heading in the right direction. Porter Moser and Jenny Bronchek are both great coaches, in my opinion. So we'll see what they do in the years ahead. But basketball season kind of abruptly over.
interesting setup for both coaches too. First year coaches come in. One has the entire roster back, basically. The other one has almost an entirely brand new roster. They both did what they could, but you're right. That same Bonaventure team, 5 guys. They play 5 guys. This is just I've never seen anything like it. And 4 of those dudes played 40 minutes. The other one played 34. Everybody scored in double figures. Everybody was efficient offensively. It's remarkable. And they go on the road and they go on the road and they go on the road and they keep winning. Now they're going to New York City. I think Ryan and I were looking for a week-long trip between Bridgeport, Connecticut, and the Final Four in New York City. Didn't work out that way. Now we got to go to Dallas and cover recruiting.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting too. You mentioned the men, the women. I thought Jenny Bronchek had some interesting comments after that about how this team went through like 3 years of development in one season. They went from not expected to be anything to like competing with Oregon in that Battle for Atlantis tournament. Then they had to deal with the pressure in that second half of, oh gosh, we're in a game with Oregon. Didn't go so well. They rebound, do really well, sweep Baylor. All of a sudden, it's like if you split with Iowa State and Texas, you might be in the running to win the Big 12 regular season. Then they didn't do either of those things. They also laid an egg against K-State, laid an egg against Kansas, against Texas Tech. Had to kind of figure that out. Got back up, got a win in the Big 12 tournament, got dominated the next day in the second half. Win an NCAA tournament game, worst loss in program history in the tournament two nights later, or a night later. So it's a lot of growth all at once that Bronchek admitted, like, yeah, you don't usually see that from one team in 1 year. So she said that's going to fuel them this offseason. It'll be interesting to see, but they've got to have someone transfer out so that they can open up a scholarship spot and go get a center. Like they have to have the size. Notre Dame in every position was bigger, faster, stronger, it felt like. And in the end, that was just too much. They couldn't defend well in the paint and come out and defend the 3-point line, all that stuff. The totality of it was just too much. So fascinating offseason for both the men and the women.
The statistic that's always going to stick with me out of the women's bracket was the IUPUI game, season low 10 turnovers. 2 nights later, season high 28 turnovers. Those are Two different teams, obviously, 2 different opponents, but 2 completely different results. Just remarkable.
Definitely. I mean, I think lots of reasons to be optimistic about both teams just into next year. Women bring a lot back. Maddie Williams and Taylor Robertson were both clearly crushed after the game, but both kind of had a similar sentiment of, we're ready to come back. We're excited to come back and do this again next year. And then for the men, you bring a lot of your team back. You're missing some key guys here, obviously, with Goldwire and Shagwell and Marvin Johnson graduating off, but you bring in really exciting freshmen in Uzan, Otega Owa, and then Benny Schroeder. So, and then I'm sure they'll try to hit the portal as well. So both teams are in good shape heading into next year. I certainly think, and both coaches, you saw the pain in their post-game press conferences of the way their seasons ended. Both those coaches they're going to make it work. I'm totally convinced. So we'll see how that looks next year. Going to be interesting years for both teams heading into 2022-23 season. All right, we'll wrap up before going to the Groves Bros with some Diamond Sports here. Softball continues to roll. I mean, every time I never know what to say because they just keep killing people. I don't know what else there is to add. They won again yesterday. They beat Kentucky handily, who's number 13, I believe, and they beat them
number
on
8
the road.
In the coaches poll, yeah.
8 in the coaches poll. They did they run rule yesterday? They did run rule, right?
Yep, run ruled them 5 home runs and a complete game from Jordy Ball. Unbelievable.
Yeah, so they roll 26-0. Whatever. I mean, it's just a matter of when can they. I don't even know. I mean, will they lose a game is really the only question.
I said 5 home runs. It was actually 6. Three different girls hit 2 home runs each. So 6 home runs.
Lindsey Elam had a 5 at-bat home run streak, like not a 5 straight games for the home, like 5 straight at-bats for the home run. Yeah, what do you do when Kinsey Hansen comes back? This lineup is stupid.
It is. It's absurd. And then, as far as baseball, really, really bad weekend against New Orleans. There's not really any sugarcoating that. They lost 2 out of 3 at home to New Orleans, team out of the Southland Conference. I don't know. I don't know what to say. That program it's just not progressing, I think is the main thing. It looks the same every year. It looks the same. They do some things well sometimes. Other times it's not there. And it's head scratching. And they start Big 12 play this weekend with Baylor at home. And then they play Oklahoma State and Texas and Oklahoma State again. They have a rough schedule coming up if they don't play better. So I don't know what's going to happen there. We'll keep an eye on that in the weeks ahead. And because they gave away that Texas series, which we talked about last week, they're not at home for any of those. They got to go to Stillwater. They play Texas and Arlington. They play OSU and Tulsa. Like, they're not ever in the friendly confines, which is where they play their best, which is what made it even weirder. So who knows? Who knows? This season can get off the rails really quickly, quite frankly, for the baseball team if it doesn't turn around very fast. So that's it for other sports. We'll move on to the final segment with the Groves Bros signing off on the season with Tanner and Jake. So stick with us up next, right back here on the SI Sooners podcast.
Hey guys, John Hoover for Trade Pros. Listen, they got something special going on at Trade Pros. It's the All-Star Service Agreement. Sign up now for just $25 a month, and the guys at Trade Pros will come out twice a year for routine maintenance. Plus, you get up to 2 pounds of Freon every year at no charge. And get this, if your heating or air unit needs work, it's not going to cost you anything if the repair is less than $500. And if it's more than $500, your cost comes in at just 25% of the Trade Pros price. It's the All-Star Service Program. Some conditions apply, so give the guys at Trade Pros a call, 405-639-9991, or hit them up on the website, tradeprosokc.com. Back for the final segment of the SI Sooners podcast, and of course it's time for our weekly segment with the Groves Brothers. We call it the Groves Bros. I want to welcome in one more time Tanner and Jacob. Tanner and Jacob Groves join the SI Sooners podcast exclusively every Wednesday, thanks to our good friends at Trade Pros. If you need service or maintenance, or you've just got questions about your heating and air, just call Trade Pros. Their number is 405-639-9991. Go see Caleb. Go see Carrie. Those guys are big sports fans, big supporters of college athletics. And you know what? They grew up right here playing sports in Oklahoma. So go check them out. Tanner, Jacob, your first season as basketball players at the University of Oklahoma, your first season as Sooners, didn't go like everyone planned, like everyone had hoped. The season ended on Sunday night at Lloyd Noble Center, 70-68 loss to St. Bonaventure in the second round of the NIT. But 2 nights later, you guys see the Bonnies go to Virginia, their third straight road game, and they win that one too, 52-51 at UVA. Those guys are going back to New York, where they're from. They're going to play in the NIT Final Four. I think they're an extremely underrated, underseeded team, but let's talk about you guys. 19-16 overall. You started the season 8-1. You beat Arkansas and Tulsa. A lot of highlights to this season. A lot of good, memorable moments, I would think, for both of you.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think that, regardless of, the last game, I think that overall this was a pretty good first season, successful season. We had some great wins, like you just said, and some bad losses, but, it was just the ups and downs of our first year in the Big 12, and it was expected. And so looking back on it, it was an awesome experience, and I'm definitely looking forward to, getting my last year of college basketball in next season here. And I'm excited to, I'm excited for the future, because I know that it's really hard to put together a team like we had, especially, I think that it's common nowadays with the transfer portal to have a team and, have guys leave and bring new guys in. But usually you'll have a core group of guys with the same coach at a college team. And this year it was different because, obviously they had the core group that stayed here, but brought in a whole new coach, a whole new staff, and then had to pick players from the portal. And so that's kind of where a lot of the difficulties came from. But I think that we were able to, come together as a team multiple times during the season and, prove that we were a really good team. And it was a lot of fun. So I'm definitely looking forward to, bringing back a lot of the core group that we have here and getting some good pieces in the portal and some good freshmen coming in. And I think that next year, there's no doubt in my mind that we'll be an NCAA tournament team. But just looking back on this year, it was a great experience, and I loved it.
Yeah, I think for me, it's cool to see, because I think this year is just something that, is kind of a foundation, something that we just, will continue to build off of. It's like Tanner said, I mean, it's difficult for, a coach to come in and try and bring his culture in and get all the guys to buy into that. And so I think, towards the end of the season, we were playing some of our best basketball of the year. And so it's like, it's good because the guys are starting to buy in and everything, but it sucks that, obviously your season comes to an end just like that. And so, I think everybody's got their hopes set on next year, and obviously our eyes on that NCAA tournament. And we're just gonna hopefully have a good off season, like Tanner said. I mean, we're gonna return a core group of guys, which will be good, who still has eligibility left. And we're just going to kind of keep building on that. I mean, now it'll be good because we've been under Coach Moser for a year, and we know exactly his expectations. And we're starting to adapt and be able to help out the freshmen that are coming in with everything that he does and what to expect. And so it's going to be good. We have a couple weeks off here, but we're excited to get back and start some spring workouts, and we're excited to really get our freshmen on campus this summer. And then hopefully if we do have to pick up some guys from the transfer portal, then we'll get them on campus as soon as possible as well, and just start working together with our team, in preparation for hopefully a really good year next year.
Yeah, it was definitely a fun season. Really look forward to seeing how you guys, obviously, but then the whole team looks next year with real off season and all that good stuff. We'll ask you about the off season ahead in just a little bit, but first I want to ask you, Jake, you just said it, the next 2 weeks, you guys, you have a couple weeks off. What do these weeks look like for you guys? Do you even pick up a basketball, or do you completely unplug from it? What's kind of like the usual routine for you guys right when the season ends here, these next couple weeks?
Yeah, it's hard because obviously we've been playing basketball since October.
Right.
I mean, is when the very end of October was our first scrimmage, and so we've been playing basketball for the last 6 months, just getting beat up every single day, practicing every single day. And so it's taken its toll on our bodies, and so we're pretty beat up and pretty sore. And so I think it's important that everyone kind of does it to take a couple days off. But it sucks losing like that when you don't go out on top, because you still kind of have that little fire in your belly where like, I need to get in the gym. I need to, keep a basketball in my hand. I need to stay in shape and make sure my shot's right. And so that's kind of something that I've been doing recently, is just, getting in and already starting the process with our strength coach, and just, continuing to like lift, and, whether it's just upper body or a little arm farm is what we call it, or riding the bike or whatever, just kind of getting back into the weights grind and what that's going to look like. And then usually I'll do some just, light shooting, but I think it's important, just to kind of take some time, and especially just, get away from basketball. Now that the weather's nice here in Norman, we'll hopefully be able to get out and play a couple rounds of golf here in the next 4 or 5 days. I think this weekend's supposed to be like 75. And so looking forward to that. Hopefully we can make that happen, and then, just have some fun, just enjoy the people that are around us, and just, kind of have fun, and take some time away from basketball before we get going this spring.
Yeah, for me, I think, I agree with Jake. I think that a big piece of, just kind of building for next season is just taking a little bit of time to yourself and reflect on the season, and kind of put forth, a list of goals that you got, that I have for myself, in the off season and for next season. And so I'm going to I definitely right after the game the next day, I definitely took the whole day off and just kind of chilled and relaxed. And then yesterday I was back in the gym, and today I was back in the gym this morning. And so I think for me, especially being an older guy, being a senior, and this is going to be my last go around, I think for me, I have more of a sense of urgency. Just that feeling inside my stomach that, I got to get something done. I gotta prepare myself for these spring workouts that we're going to have here coming up, and for the summer workouts, and ultimately for the season next year, because, at the end of the day, our goal is to make the NCAA tournament and advance. That's the ultimate goal. And so for me, it's like, I just have this feeling in my stomach, like a sense of urgency that, I really I gotta get stuff done. And so I'll probably, take some days here and there to where I don't do much, or, I'll just be hanging out, but I'm going to still be, working out. I'll still be making sure I stay in shape, running a little bit, and hitting the weights and keeping a ball in my hand almost every single day. And so that's going to be kind of big for me in the next 2 weeks. And once we get going here with spring workouts, but I'd say outside of basketball, that only takes up a couple hours of my day. I'm I'm actually flying home later today, and so I'm looking forward to getting back into Spokane, Washington. It's gonna be a little bit colder there, but gonna enjoy some family time and get to watch my little brother play some hoops. I'm really excited to watch that. He just sent me a video. He's in 8th grade, but he just sent me a video. He said he got his first dunk, so I'm excited to see if that's actually true or not.
Oh,
we'll see.
8th grade.
Looking forward to seeing that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to just hanging out with my parents, my little brother, my dog, and just unwinding, having a good time. Maybe get a couple rounds of golf in, hang out with my friends back home. But that's kind of what the next 2 weeks will look like for me.
Tanner, before I get to my next question, I wanted to ask a quick follow-up. You mentioned goals that you want to write down. Anything you'd like to share in terms of your goals?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I think coming from Eastern Washington, it was kind of like I eventually got to that point where I was kind of like a big fish in a small pond. And so now right here, I'm kind of like I don't know how you describe it. I was coming in as one of the top transfers in the portal, and I had I had a pretty good season, I think, especially for my first season in the Big 12. But I got some bigger goals in mind. I want to play basketball after college, and so I want to be able to compete at this level night in and night out. I think that there were definitely some games this season where I didn't do what I wanted to do, and there were some games where I did a lot of good things. And so for me, I think that one of my main goals is to I need to get bigger, I need to get stronger, especially playing in this league. There were definitely games where I would feel so fatigued and so tired that I wouldn't be able to play to the best of my ability just because I was banging down low with some of the big guys in this league, and it's a little bit different in the Big 12 compared to the Big Sky where I come from. And so definitely need to gain some weight. Talked to Coach a little bit yesterday. I was in his office, had a little meeting with him, and I think for me one of the biggest goals is just to gain some weight, get stronger, and continue on. I think the last 6 games of the season, my rebounding was probably the best all season that I've had, and so I want to continue to keep that up, keep rebounding, and I want to be able to just obviously I think with the weight gain it'll help my inside game. At Eastern Washington, that was kind of where most of my scoring and production came from, was getting buckets in the post, and so I kind of want to be able to go back to that. I think that's where I'm most comfortable, and Coach and I were talking about that too. And I think if I can gain some weight, it'll help me be able to go against some of these players in the league, and ultimately play my best basketball, and move on to the point where once we hopefully reach the NCAA tournament, we can be playing our best basketball in advance.
Definitely. I want to ask you. You mentioned Coach Moser. I want to ask you about Coach. The demeanor that we've seen from him all year is energy out here, guys. Let's do this, let's do that. And then post game of the final game of the season, he was really subdued. He was he was just drained. I bet he slept well that night, except for the mental part of it. Just physically, he was drained. It really took a lot out of him. And he looked over at Mo sitting on his right, and he talked about how much he just appreciated him and this team and how much it meant to him. He was getting almost a little bit emotional. So I wanted to get you guys' reaction, thoughts, input, insight into his kind of post game and how, it really seemed to hit him hard, obviously, as much as he's invested and as emotional as he is. What was he like in the post game? And you probably bounced back the next day, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think that a lot of it, especially just in the talk after in the locker room after the game, it's like our post game talk went from not as much basketball, like we could have done this better, we should have done this better, like why didn't we do this? It was, instead of that, it was more like Ethan, Jordan, Marvin, like Mo, our seniors, like, thank you guys, like, for what you did, for our program. Like, this is Coach's first year here, and, he didn't know what to expect. And so, especially with a group of guys that he kind of has to put together last minute. And so he was very grateful to them. And it's just one of those things that's like, no one wants to go out, losing a game like that and have that be their last college game ever. And so he was just very understanding to them and almost kind of sorry too. It was like, I felt a little bad. It was just definitely a lot of emotions that night, especially after those guys obviously just played their last college game. And it's like, I still don't know if like reality's set in that, like, obviously season's over and we're not waking up to go to practice every day. But yeah, I mean, you could definitely tell in the post game interviews as well that, it was just kind of one of those things where he's just very grateful for the guys and for, coming to practice every day and kind of starting to buy into this culture thing that he has. And so it was cool for the players to definitely see just how special of a coach he is. And so it was kind of a bittersweet little ending to the season that was, just the way it went out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think when you got a guy like Coach, when you work as hard as Coach does, then you gotta be as tired as he was. I think that at the end of the season, that makes sense that he was drained and all this and that, because I can tell you one thing that, no matter what, every single day, it didn't matter if we were playing Rogers State at the start of the year or if we were playing in an elimination game against St. Bonaventures as our last game. He was the exact same all year long in the way that he prepared for games and in the way that he coached us and the way that, he was chasing, like he wanted to win. And I could just tell that, like, the entire season, that's one thing that I have the utmost respect for him for, that is that, it didn't matter who we were playing. It didn't matter the competition. It didn't matter if it was, us going on the road playing at Texas Tech, who hasn't lost a home game in however long, or, playing, like I said, Rogers State at home. It didn't matter. The one goal was winning, and that was, his main thing. And so I respect him for that. As a competitor, obviously I want to win every game too. And Coach took that to the next level and showed me what the preparation really looks like in terms of, scouting teams and how much energy you got to bring each day and what it takes to win. And, that's something, like I said, I respect him about that. And I mean, I'm looking forward. I'm really happy that I have another year because I gained so much, like, just knowledge and stuff from him, in terms of, leadership, in terms of how you need to prepare yourself, in terms of the work you got to put in to win, and the teamwork that goes along with it. And so I'm happy. Like I said, I'm happy I have another year because I've learned so much that I can, put into these guys next season, that I can be a leader on the court. And I'm really excited that, we get the opportunity to do it again, because I really think that, if this core group that we had this year, if we had gone through 4 years with Coach like a normal team does, then I have no doubt that we'd be, in the second weekend, like you see Iowa State in the second weekend, I have no doubt that we could be one of those teams right now in the Sweet 16. And so, that's obviously big goals for next year, but, I believe we can do it. And I'll tell a quick story. One of something I'll always remember that was really cool is, we were kind of before the St. Bonaventure game. The practice was kind of winding down. We were up in our practice gym, which we just renovated, and they've showed it on the broadcast multiple times. Coach has his culture wall where he's got all these phrases on the wall, and so we just renovated the practice gym, and Coach threw up a bunch of phrases around the side of the gym so that he could reference them while we're in the middle of practice. And I remember, it was kind of getting to the end of practice. Guys are, starting to get a little loose, and Coach was like talking about these phrases. One of the phrases on the wall, and then I would just remember he came up and huddled the guys on the sideline, and he said to all of us that one day, like he said it with so much conviction in his voice, he said one day there's going to be a banner up in this gym because of all these little things. They're going to all add up, and one day there's going to be a banner in this gym. And I believed him. I was like, man, that's cool. And then he also just talked about how, no matter what, it could be our last game, it could be our last day of practice, he's going to put everything he can into our preparation, into the games, just for these seniors. And he said, like, as long as you guys are still, like talking to the seniors, he said, as long as you guys are still part of this program, I'm gonna put everything into it so that we can win for you guys. And so I just thought that was really cool, and just kind of goes to show, what coach has done for us all season, and just the type of preparation and work he puts in. And so I'm really excited to play for him next year, and I can't wait.
Absolutely. And I mean, we just earlier in the show, we were talking about the end of the season, and I said then, huge believer in Coach Moser moving forward. Seems like he's just, really got the program headed in the right direction. Excited that both you guys get to be with him for another season next year. I do want to spin it forward to next season a little bit. You guys both touched on transfer portal and like maybe adding guys, obviously I'm not going to ask you to like speculate on guys you might add, but what does that look like for players on the team like yourselves in terms of, do you like give input, like guys you played before, even this season, like if that guy hits the portal, we should try to get him? Does coach or any of the coaches run that stuff by you guys? What does that look like for current players on the team whenever you're adding transfers in the off season?
Yeah, it's kind of like, and not a lot of it goes through the players. I mean, there will be, certain guys who are in the transfer portal that'll come on visits and stuff, and we'll meet them, and obviously we'll know who they are because we're pretty, we're pretty invested in college basketball in general, and so we know a lot of the guys that we're recruiting, the freshmen coming in. We know a lot about them. We know, quite a bit of the guys that enter the portal that we kind of have our eyes on, and so I think that we'll definitely, get a chance to meet them. But, when it comes down to it, I think it's a lot of the coaching and them pretty much dealing with recruits, what they're looking for, what they think our team needs. And so not a lot of that goes through the players. I mean, the transfer portal is such a crazy thing nowadays because it's like, I don't know the rules after COVID, but I think you still get one, free transfer, obviously, anywhere without having to sit out a year. And so it's just changed college basketball so much. And so it'll be a really interesting offseason to see, what that looks like for us. And kind of like you said, maybe, if we do have any more involvement in, the guys that we're bringing in, I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think Jake hit it. I think that a lot of times it's really just the coaches kind of working the transfer portal and kind of trying to get the guys that fit the culture. I think it'll be a lot more helpful, especially this year, because I'm pretty sure that the transfers will be able to visit, unlike last year with COVID and everything. And so I think that'll be helpful just in terms of coach kind of getting to meet these players, meet their families, and kind of see if these players fit his culture, and the players kind of get to see coach's energy towards the game. And I think that'll be really helpful in terms of the recruiting from the portal. And so, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to see who we pick up. I think that whoever we get, they're going to be solid additions. I have faith. I have trust in the coaches. And I definitely look forward to, meeting these guys. And I'm glad, like I said earlier, I'm glad we got this core group of guys staying that can kind of take these guys in and show them the culture, and we'll be able to move forward quickly in the off season compared to last year when everyone was learning new things from coach. But now we got a group of guys that kind of knows what the deal is, and we'll be able to get these guys along quicker. And so I think that'll kind of help our success, and it'll probably be more evident to the fans and everyone that, this team is kind of clicking a little bit earlier this next year than, maybe this year we did. So that'll be a good thing for us.
So you guys aren't like Draymond Green. You're not out there on the court actively recruiting the next transfer portal guys like the free agency in the NBA. You're letting them play their team. Is that what you're saying?
Definitely.
Yeah, not quite like the NBA.
Hey, I can tell you this. My bracket right now it looks like I left it in some chicken coop somewhere. There's X's all over the whole thing. Like what happened to, especially the bottom half. I think in one bracket I missed all but 2 games in the entire bracket. Like, what were you thinking? You always look back and say, what were you thinking? Why did you think that they were not going to? But the top half is pretty solid. I still got Villanova, still got Gonzaga, but my picks of Auburn and Kentucky to the Final Four. Let that be a lesson. Don't pick an SEC team to the Final Four.
Yeah, there you go.
What about you guys? Where are you standing right now? And just how much are you looking forward to the rest of March Madness?
Yeah, I haven't obviously haven't made a bracket, but I'm just kind of looking through it right now on my phone, and we got some good games. I'm excited. I'm definitely excited. I'll be home tomorrow,
We
and
got some good hoops tomorrow
I'll be
night.
able to just sit on my couch, and obviously after I get my workout in, but I'll be able to sit on my couch all day and watch some good basketball. So I don't know. I think just looking through the bracket, I'm gonna give you guys my picks. I think that in the Elite Eight, I think Gonzaga beats Arkansas. I think it's going to be a good game, but I think Gonzaga's matchups are kind of tougher for Arkansas. So I think it's going to be Gonzaga. And then I'm going to go with the Big 12, and I'm going to say Gonzaga and Texas Tech are going to have a little rematch. And then I'm going to say I think North Carolina's been playing pretty good. Obviously, you got Brady Manick, Oklahoma guy. I think that he's a stud. So I think North Carolina and Purdue are going to play each other. St. Peter's Cinderella run is going to end in the Sweet 16. And then on the other side, I think I'm going to go with Arizona versus Villanova. And then I'll say Kansas versus Iowa State. Do a little Big 12 rematch there. So those are just my Sweet 16 picks. But, man, I'm looking forward to seeing some great games and just watching good basketball. I think the last, the first weekend of March Madness, Jake brought his TV out and we set up our dining room table in the main room, and we literally just had two TVs back and forth just watching games. And so definitely excited. This is a great time, best time of the year, and I'm looking forward to watching some good basketball.
Yeah, I think I'm looking at the bracket now too, and I like Tanner's picks. I like going with the Big 12 teams, and so I'm taking Tech over Duke tomorrow. I like the Zags matchup versus Arkansas. I think the Zags are incredibly hard to match up with. And that'll be, gosh, we just got some good hoops on the next couple of days. This gets me excited. It's funny, I'm gonna be living. I'll have the whole apartment to myself. I'm gonna be hanging out, watching hoops all weekend. So I like North Carolina, but I don't think they're gonna win. I think UCLA is gonna get them, even though they've been playing good. You got to take Purdue over St. Peter's. I think it's just impossible to kind of match up with Zach Edey and Jaden Ivey. Those guys are tough coverage for St. Peter's, especially. And then going Kansas, Iowa State, a little Big 12 matchup in the Elite Eight there, which will be good to see. And then I like Villanova and Arizona too. And so we got a good weekend of hoops coming up. I'm excited to see what I would love to see. Being a guy from Spokane, I'd kind of love to see a Gonzaga Arizona matchup. Just because Tommy Lloyd, who was a longtime assistant at Gonzaga, as his first year at being the head coach of Arizona, and so I'd kind of like to see that little rivalry matchup in the national championship. But I guess we'll see. I mean, both teams have been pretty dang close to getting upset, and so we'll see. I mean, a lot of teams are playing really good basketball right now, so it'll be a fun next couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. My bracket is in total shambles as well. I'm the same too. If I had Auburn and Kentucky, I was maybe a little blinded by wanting Jabari Smith to play for the Thunder. So I rode with Jabari a little too far. But really excited for the games this week, especially tomorrow. Like you said, the games tomorrow are that's a slate right there. Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, as we're winding down here on our last time with you guys, just kind of the off season ahead. Just points of emphasis over the next several months going into next season. What does the off season look like for you guys in terms of what are some areas that you definitely are important? This off season. You guys have kind of touched on this a little bit already, but just overall, what the off season will look like before we see you guys, on the court again in November or whenever the season opener lands.
I think for me, it's, a lot of it's going to come in the weight room, just continuing to work with Coach Dobb and just, getting my body right. I mean, I think I've come a long ways, since I first got here, but I still, I feel like I still have a long way to go, especially battling and pushing around with some of the guys in the Big 12. They're just, big physical kids. And so, I think just being bigger, faster, stronger is just going to, continue to help my game. Which will be good for me. And then, I've talked a lot with our coaching staff as well and just coaches. And I think that me kind of stepping into a role of, kind of accepting being like just a knockdown elite shooter is something that I kind of have to get to that point. And so I'm going to spend a lot of time, working on my shot, and just, continuing to just try and be an elite shooter, like I said. And so that's going to be a lot of it. And then I think a lot of it just comes with, there's going to be a lot of sacrifice this off season, this spring and summer, where we, want to be spending a lot of time obviously at home or at the lake or, out on the golf course or whatever. But, in reality, if we want to reach the goals that, that we're kind of setting for ourselves, then there's going to have to be some sacrifice with that stuff. And so maybe we're not going to get go out and golf or go spend a weekend up at the lake. Maybe we're going to have to stay in Norman and get in the gym and lift and kind of make some sacrifices like that. And so I think, this is an incredibly huge off season for me, especially, just moving forward. And so, I'm excited for it. Like I said, I've kind of already started the process of, getting in the weight room, getting back into it, shooting every day and just getting my body used to, being back, living in, like we were this summer, just kind of getting back to getting in the gym every day, getting in the weight room every day and, just trying to get better for next season. So that's kind of where I am right now.
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, like I hit on earlier a little bit, I definitely got to gain some weight, get a little bit bigger, but on the other side, I think that, as I'm gaining this weight, I need to make sure that, I can still become quicker and more athletic, which is easier said than done, but it's possible. And, I'm looking forward to the challenge this offseason, just working in the weight room. Like Jake said, I'm going to be doing the same thing and continue grooving my shot. And I think for me, a big part too is I want to become more of a leader, especially just with the team we got. And, being an older guy on the team, I think, out of everyone sticking around, I'll be, probably the oldest guy. And so I'm definitely looking forward to taking a bigger role for next year and hopefully, helping lead these guys and hopefully we can make a deep run into the NCAA tournament. That's my goal is obviously to make it to the second, third weekend of March Madness. And, that taste that Jake and I got last year, that's something that I will remember for the rest of my life. And I just hopefully want to build on that. And I think that, with the coaching staff that we have, along with the talent we're bringing back and, the talent I think that we're going to bring in, I think that there's no doubt that we can make a deep run into March. And, I'm just super excited. And that's just going to be that's just the only thing that I'm going to be thinking about as I'm working out is just, the end goal of, where we could potentially see ourselves next March. And so that's going to be a major emphasis as I'm, working through this off season.
I'm a big believer, fellas. I want to just say, Tanner and Jacob, I cannot express enough how cool it's been for you guys to join us every week on the SI Sooners podcast. It's been unbelievable just getting to know you guys a little bit, getting to hang out with you here in our virtual chat room, so to speak. So I just want to say thank you, and I certainly want to say thank you as well to all our listeners and viewers over the past 7 weeks as well.
Yeah, no doubt. It's been a lot of fun getting to talk with you guys and kind of share our story and just our thoughts throughout the season. And yeah, we definitely look forward to seeing y'all in the LNC next season.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. Thank you guys for having us on. Obviously it's been a lot of fun getting to know you guys and just kind of talking hoops every week. I mean, it's definitely fun doing that. And we love hearing from, all of our family back home and friends that always text us, listen to the podcast this week. Great job, whatever, and so that's been a lot of fun for Tanner and I and just, getting to know you guys and talking with you guys. So thank you guys for that.
Absolutely. And a special shout out to, and thank you to Ben Chase and Blueprint Sports for putting us in touch with the Groves Bros. This was a great opportunity for everyone for sure. And of course, thanks as always to Trade Pros for sponsoring the Groves Bros on the SI Sooners podcast. Remember, if you need heating and air solutions, give those guys a call. 405-639-9991 for all your heating and air needs, or just go to tradeprosokc.com. And do not forget, we'll be back next Wednesday for the weekly SI Sooners podcast, as always. You can listen to that one and all the episodes of the SI Sooners podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Google, iHeart, or wherever you get your podcasts. Or if you've got an Amazon-enabled device, you just tell it, Alexa, play the SI Sooners podcast. You can find it on our website, allsooners.com. Click on the player, listen on your phone, your tablet, your computer, and, of course, we simulcast the video version over on my YouTube channel, John Hoover Media. Comment, like, rate, subscribe, share. All that stuff really helps us. For Josh, for Ryan, who was with us earlier on the podcast, and, of course, for the Groves Bros, one last time, Tanner and Jacob, appreciate it. I'm John Hoover. See you guys.